Hi everyone, and welcome to the last presentation before the closing keynotes, and congratulations for making it this far. So it's been quite a few busy days and exciting days with lots of masterclasses, tutorials, sessions happening in parallel. I don't know how it is for you, but personally, for me, whenever I have to choose between parallel sessions, I always have a hard time doing that. But you chose this one, and I believe that you are here for a reason. Perhaps you are leading a QA team and want your team to work on improvements. Or perhaps you want to change a process or introduce a new tool. Or maybe you are even working on quality improvements, but they're not getting traction. Something is missing. Well, to move away from that situation, I'd like us to reflect on perception and perspective. Perception is your interpretation of the world. It's how you see it. And it's unique only to you. It is influenced by our experiences, our role, our culture. And that's not necessarily bad. But when you're stuck in your own perception, you may miss how others see the same situation. And that is where perspective comes in. Perspective means stepping outside of your lens and asking, how does this look like to other people? How does this look like to customers? Perspective is about context. It's about asking the questions, not why is this important to me, but why does this matter to them? And when you start thinking like them, you gain informational advantage. And that is actually the mindset shift that brings us closer to leading quality initiatives for business impact. So I invite you to look at the next of the presentation, not just through your own lens, but through the perspective of your team members, of your leaders, your colleagues. So are some couple of things that we are going to look at. How is it that initiatives can be successful? How is it that we can align testing efforts with business goals? We'll also look at some tools, may that be in the form of some templates or AI tools that can help us to define, track, and communicate our initiatives to the relevant groups. We'll also talk about how is it that we can get the buy-in from our stakeholders and how is it that we can engage the team. And by the end of it, you should have the complete framework on how to drive and lead quality initiatives. So with that path in mind, let's talk about where the business impact is most visible. And that is the customer. Because you see, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many test cases you have executed or how many bugs have you discovered. If the customer has a bad experience, none of that matters. What matters to the customer is how the product feels in their hands. That's their reality. That is where loyalty is won or lost. So I want to talk about the next business driver, or the first business driver, which is actually customer experience. And how can we achieve that? Through customer satisfaction. And what is it that we can do as testers to support customer satisfactions? Well, there are a couple of things that we can do. Test what matters. Don't just validate the acceptance criteria of some user story, but look at real user flows. Look at what matters to the customer. These user flows, when you're testing them, where you're integrating in your test suite, look at how the customer have their configuration. What are some settings that they have? What kind of data they are using? What's the data model? What edge cases are they encountering? And all of these things, integrate them into your test suites. Another thing that helps increase customer satisfaction is how we handle their tickets when they have issues. And so when a ticket raises an issue, The way that we interact with them is just as important as the fix itself. So ensure that you have a solid ticketing triage and that you always keep the customer in the loop, inform them about the changes. And also, as testers, learn from escaped bugs and integrate that into your tests. There are a couple of other things that we can do as testers, and I call this the elevation path. And here are some other practices that we can do. We can use discovery insights. This can come in the form of user interviews or beta sessions. So all of these things, we can gather more insights and incorporate them into our testing scenarios. When it comes to tickets, here also there are some things that we can do. We could look at ticket trends, learn about what features or what parts of the features are mostly used by the customers, and also what features are most misunderstood by the customer, and use that feedback again in your test suite. So testing, in the end, it's not just about validation, but it's about gathering insights and discovery. There is something else that comes before customer experience, and that's product fit. We may have 100% regression coverage. Maybe our builds are all green, our tests are passing, but if we are not addressing the true needs and wants of our customer, quality won't matter. So product fit, it's about building the right thing, not just building it right. So how is it that as testers we can support product fit? There are here also a couple of things that we can do. So as testers, get involved early in the discussions to try to surface risks. Ask questions. There is another thing that we can do as testers. Get more insights from our stakeholders. Get internal input. Get customer personas, known customer personas, and test the scenarios that they will typically take. To take this further, not only focus on internal input, but also on external input. We can gather insights by beta feedback, voice of the customer sessions, product analytics, competitor analysis, and all of those insights, incorporate them into your test suites. And also, user tracking behavior. This is another thing that we can focus on and incorporate that into our test suites. So we talked about two foundational business drivers. So the first one was customer satisfaction. How is it that we can make our customer happy? And product fit, if we're even building the right thing in the first place. But there's one more bridge that we need to cross. And that is to get the product confidently and safely to the customer. And that is where delivery readiness comes in. Delivery readiness is about knowing what works and what doesn't, what features have been verified or unverified. Delivery readiness is about trust. So how is it that as testers we can support this? Well, there are here also a couple of things that we can do. As testers, we can support the demos that we do to the customers. We can create walkthroughs or demo scenarios and do rehearsal tests so that we know that specific flows that will be presented to the customer work seamlessly. We can also create a demo test environment with data that is simulated but controlled. And again, that's very close to how the customer is using the data, the product. So to take this further, what is it that we can do? Well, we as testers will always prepare some test reports before there is a delivery. And the information that we put in there is very essential. because most of you would probably just put in some metrics. But try to get away from just presenting just raw metrics and use a standardized language. And what I mean by that is that don't just say, I've found this many bugs or I've executed this many test cases, but use the language the stakeholders understand. Talk about risks, for example. Talk about which critical areas have been tested and to what degree. Make the story in such a way that your stakeholders understand what actions they need to take. And as testers, don't just validate the things, but also get involved in co-creating the quality gate checklist. And also another thing that we can do as testers is to monitor the product post-release to improve how it works pre-release. And for that you can use telemetry data, observability data, and all of these things you can incorporate them into your test suites. So, we talked about 3 business drivers. Delivery readiness, how is it that we can confidently get the product to the customer. Product fit, does the product truly do the right thing for the customer? And customer satisfaction, does the customer have a good experience? But as QA professionals, our influence starts a bit smaller. It starts with improvements. And all of those practices that we saw before, those are improvements that we can apply in our work. But improvements can be scattered. They may be technical and in different teams. So when we bundle these improvements together, we get initiatives. But initiatives are also missing something. They're missing direction. And this is where objectives come into play. Objectives help answer the why behind our initiative. And I want to introduce the OKR framework. So OKR stands for Objectives and Key Results. It's not something that's new. It's been around since the 1970s. And in its form, it's very simple. It consists of 2 parts. So it's the objective, which is a statement of what and why I'm trying to do, and the key results, typically 3 or 5, that will show if we are reaching our success. It will tell us if we are successful with our objective. Of course, this framework is not as simple as I'm making it look. It actually makes us think of deeper questions. It makes us ask, what is the purpose of what I'm trying to do here? Why am I doing this? How will I know if I have succeeded? So let's see how we can put this OKR framework in practice into our quality initiatives. And what I have here, it's a template that should help you define and track and basically communicate your initiatives to the stakeholders. Of course, this can be in the form of a PowerPoint or Confluence or whatever you would like it to have it in the end. The information is what's important in here. And also, when you're preparing this and when you are doing the reporting, don't take hours to give the information to the people. 10 to 15 minutes maximum is all you need. So this is why this one-pager format is useful, because it's concise and it captures the essence of what you did. So let me explain a bit the template. So we have an objective name. It could also be your initiative name. There's a description. What is it that you're trying to do? What are the benefits? The focus group. This is an important part. So your initiative should have an owner. This is the person that's responsible for this initiative. It's the person that is going to prepare such reports, that's going to do the communication, that's ensuring that we are on track. Optionally, you may also have a facilitator. If you have an initiative that's very big, you can have a facilitator that can help you with the moderation of your meetings, with sorting out artifacts. The team, this is another important aspect. You need to know who your team is, the people that are going to work on these initiatives, and make sure that they have time and capacity for that. Stakeholders. That's another part that's important. Know who your stakeholders are. Know who is impacted by this. Know how it affects others, what you are trying to achieve with your initiative. Know how that is going to influence the work of other people. And also have a sponsor, someone that will support your initiative, someone from higher level, maybe even C-level. So in the middle of this template, we have our key results, where we described, what are we trying to achieve, what are we trying to do, and also how are we going to measure that progress. There's a progress summary. This is where you will typically list your achievements, if there were milestones that you have achieved. If there are risks that you identified, also list them here, mitigation plans, if there are something in place. For the status, I'm using a traffic light reporting for the status. So of course, green means everything is on track, we're all good. Amber is, we have some risk that we have identified, but we also have a mitigation plan for that. Red clearly means we're blocked, we're off track. If there are risks, also mention them here. And for the next steps, this is the last part of this report, specified what are you trying to do next? What should your stakeholders expect by the next reporting date? So this is the template, but I'm pretty sure you can understand it better with an example. So here is how you can actually put it in practice. So here the initiative is about trying to get closer to the customer, trying to get insights from how the customer is using the product, and feed that into test design by also using AI. So I have my description, what I'm trying to do, the benefits of it. My focus group is in place. I know who my people are. I also have some dates. When did I start with the initiative? What's the provision completion date? And then I have my key results. So what I'm trying to do there, I'm trying to incorporate 3 sources as insights for my test design. I am trying to reduce the customer defects. And I'm also trying to improve my automation coverage in the critical parts. And also how I'm tracking the progress for that. In the progress summary, I'm specifying what have I done. So I've already have some sources that I've feeding into my test design, and where is it that I'm blocked. And this is why the status is also amber. And because I have a risk, which is I don't have enough capacity for my automation, I've also specified what do I plan to do to overcome that impediment, and I'm specifying that in the next steps. So overall, this is the template that you can use to define your initiative, to track your initiative, and to communicate your progress to your relevant stakeholders. So we've talked about having a sponsor at our table, but how is it that we can get leadership buy-in? There are a couple of things that I want to mention. So whenever you're starting with a new initiative, be specific about what is it that you are trying to do. Also, connect your initiative and the associated improvements with the business goals. Don't focus just on problems. There are also opportunities that you can transform into initiatives. It's not just about, I have a problem, I have to fix it. You can be in a good state and you can get in a better state. And also, don't focus just on very complex and difficult tasks. Identify if you have some low-hanging fruits, some quick wins that you can transform into initiatives and already show that this method works. Another thing that you can do is clarify the impact. Make it clear why your initiative matters. How will the outcomes of your initiative positively influence the company and the people? And lastly, back everything with data. So, on the other hand of the coin, on the other side of the coin, we have the team. How is it that we can engage the team? Well, first of all, tie this initiative to a pain point that they have, to something that they're trying to improve, directly connected to their work. Ensure that the team has the right capabilities or skills to work on specific initiatives, or at least that they are committed to acquire them. Also, don't focus just on having a QE, quality engineers in your team or testers in your team. You can benefit from the perspective of developers or business analysts. On the other hand, just because a role is missing in your focus group doesn't mean that all the work needs now to be shifted to the role that's not in there. So keep the work balanced. And also, don't focus just on quick wins. Those are great to start with, but also target more complex stuff that can be scaled. So far we have our support from our leaders, we have the support of our teams, and we can also benefit from AR support to define and drive our initiatives. And the way that AI can be used in this context, it's when you are defining your OKRs. Because writing OKRs and associated key results takes time and experience, and perhaps we're not all that experienced in that sense. So with AI, these systems can help you draft OKRs. They can also spot ambiguity in your key results. They can identify if your key results are not measurable. So all of these things can better help to define your initiative. And I want to briefly go through some AI tools that I've used. Of course, these are not the only ones, just a couple of things that I've tried. I've put here the links, so feel free to check them out on your own. So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this quote that for me captures the heart of what I'm trying to say today. So Henry David Thoreau said, "It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." And I think that strongly applies to the QA world as well. Because we may look at a test report or at a dashboard or a coverage, but as leadership in quality, what we see is far more important. We can connect quality to strategy, we can connect testing outcomes to business, and we can even influence a culture shift, not just a process shift. And we bring in not just perception, but also perspective to help gain traction with our initiatives. So I hope that when you go back to your teams, you would look at familiar things such as a test plan or a test report or a coverage report, but you are going to see new opportunities. Opportunities to lead, opportunities to align, and opportunities to make transformation happen on a long term. So thank you for your attention. I'm leaving here also my contact details in case you want to connect with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreea. Let's see what do we have for questions. Really nice status report template. How are you delivering it to the interested parties?
So typically there will be some recurrent session meetings, yes, where I'm gathering all of my stakeholders and where I present, okay, this is what happened, this is where we are blocked. And I'm always trying to be transparent with what I'm doing. So even if something went wrong, I'm not trying to hide that. And that's really important because most of the time we just want to look good, but that's not helping because my stakeholders, my sponsor is there to help me out. And this is why I need them. Yeah, so typically how I'm delivering this, yes, typically it's every 2 weeks. Now depends on your progress and the capacity that you have. You can also do it once per month.
Okay, next question. As a QA, how can we identify which sections of product are most relevant to our end customers?
Yeah, so basically this goes in the direction of how am I able to gather these insights and what do I know which insights are relevant. You're not alone in the company. You are in a development team. You have your product owner, you have your product manager. Go to your product manager because that person is the closest to the customer. You also have support teams. They are a good source to give you more information about the tickets and the problems that they are found there. You may also have a pre-sales or a sales team. They are also a good source to gather more insights that you can know how to feed into your test scenarios. So they are the ones that can help you identify which areas are more important to tackle first.
Okay, I don't see more questions. I have one more. If I don't have direct access to customers, how can I get more insight?
Yeah, so aside from what you can do internally, yes, you can also try to look at different statistic reports. Yeah, so we all know about Gartner. Yeah, so this is also something that can help us gather more information about what our competitors are doing. Yeah, because that's also another aspect of this. If we want direct customer feedback, of course, again, our product manager is the main person here. But of course, there are other alternatives. If we have already telemetry data embedded into our ecosystem, then again, that's a very good source that you can use.
Thank you very much. Seeing no more questions, another round of applause to Andreea Cosariu, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andreea. It was a pleasure.